I always believed that secrets, if buried deep enough, would stay hidden forever. But I never realized that the truth has a voice of its own, and sometimes it speaks through the most innocent lips. Our life looked perfect from the outside. Daniel, my husband, was the kind of man women prayed for. Gentle, intelligent, unwaveringly faithful, and so devoted to me that I often wondered if I truly deserved him, and maybe deep down, I knew I didn't. We lived in a quiet suburban home filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and the smell of fresh pancakes every Sunday morning, a routine built on love, or so I convinced myself, even when I began feeling an emptiness growing within me, the kind of hollowness that slowly spread like a silent disease. I was once madly in love with Daniel, and maybe I still was in my own twisted way, but after 10 years, a marriage can sometimes feel like a museum, everything preserved, unmoving, familiar, and no longer exciting. I never set out to destroy everything, but temptation, when it comes wrapped in charm, excitement, and the thrill of secrecy, can blind you to everything you once held sacred. And that's how I let Marcus, the man I worked with, bold, confident, magnetic in ways Daniel had never tried to be, slip past my defenses, first with harmless lunches, then with late-night texts that made me feel young and wanted, and eventually into hotel rooms I swore I'd never enter with anyone but my husband. Marcus was the opposite of Daniel in every possible way. Unpredictable, flirty, full of passionate words and dangerous intentions, and somehow, I let myself believe that I deserved a piece of that world, that it wasn't cheating if I still came home and kissed my husband and read bedtime stories to Lily like everything was perfect. It started as a foolish mistake, one I told myself I'd stop after one time, but like most betrayals, it became an addiction, a hidden escape I guarded with elaborate lies and forced smiles, while Daniel held my hand at family dinners, unaware that the woman beside him was vanishing from the inside out. Each lie snowballed into a web I could no longer untangle. I found myself sending texts while Daniel cooked dinner, deleting photos, fabricating stories of traffic delays or client dinners, all while knowing that if I stopped and looked into his eyes for too long I'd break. But I didn't stop, because Marcus made me feel like a woman again instead of just a wife and mother. And that high was intoxicating. Months passed and the guilt gnawed at me in quiet moments, but not enough to make me stop until one Tuesday evening, I came home to find the house unusually quiet, not the peaceful kind, but the tense kind that makes your heart pound with unexplainable dread. And as I stepped into the living room, I saw our 7-year-old daughter Lily sitting on the couch holding a piece of paper with a drawing she'd made, a picture of me, Marcus, and a big red X scribbled over it, her innocent eyes looking up at me and whispering, "Daddy said you broke our family, Mommy?" And I felt my entire world tilt beneath me. I turned to see Daniel standing in the hallway, arms crossed, not angry, not yelling, but calm, too calm, with a kind of silence that screamed louder than any words ever could. And when I tried to speak, he simply handed me a small tablet where he had saved screenshots, GPS logs, hotel receipts, and worst of all, recordings of my own voice laughing, flirting, betraying, captured from a synced smartwatch I didn't even remember syncing with our shared iCloud account. And he said nothing except, "She knows everything because she deserved the truth more than you deserve to hide it," and walked past me like I was a stranger. I spent that night alone in the guest room, sobbing into my pillow, haunted by the broken look on Lily's face as she asked if I still loved Daddy, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have an answer that would make it right. Daniel didn't scream, didn't throw things, didn't even argue. His silence was sharper than any fight, and over the next few days, he moved with mechanical grace, cooking breakfast for Lily, walking her to school, packing his things without emotion, while I begged, cried, and groveled, but he wouldn't even look at me. The most crushing moment came 3 nights later when Lily stood at my bedroom door and asked, "Did you kiss that man, Mommy? Did you lie to Daddy and still tuck me in like nothing was wrong?" And I collapsed into a sobbing mess on the floor because her tiny voice carried the weight of every terrible decision I had made. I tried to make amends, attending therapy sessions, writing apology letters, begging Daniel to consider counseling together, but his heart had already shattered, and once a man like Daniel breaks, he doesn't put the pieces back the same way. The divorce was swift, clean, and merciless. He kept the house, won full custody, and left me with every memory that now felt like a punishment. The court granted me visitation twice a month, but Lily had changed. She no longer ran into my arms when she saw me, no longer laughed the same way, and though she tried to pretend, her eyes told me that trust had fled her heart just as it had Daniel's. Still I tried. I rented a small apartment, filled it with Lily's favorite books, painted the walls her favorite color, and waited for her visits like a prisoner waits for their hour of sunlight, knowing it won't last but clinging to it anyway. On one visit, Lily asked, "Why did you break Daddy's heart, Mommy? Didn't you love us enough to stop?" And I had no words, only tears and a crushing realization that I could never undo what I had done. Daniel, meanwhile, flourished. He looked happier, stronger, more at peace, and he never spoke ill of me to Lily, never poisoned her against me, because he didn't have to. My actions had already done that. Marcus tried to stay in my life for a while, but once he realized I came with a trail of tears and broken promises, he disappeared, leaving me with nothing but guilt and a scarred soul. A year later, Daniel met someone new. A schoolteacher named Anna, kind and soft-spoken, who adored Lily and made her smile again. And when I saw them together at a school play, Daniel's hand resting gently on Anna's back, Lily seated between them laughing, I knew I had been erased, not with malice but with quiet, dignified finality. I sometimes watch them from a distance, wondering if Daniel ever thinks of the life we once had, if he still feels any trace of the love we shared before I shattered it. But I never approach because I don't deserve that conversation, not anymore. The guilt never leaves me. It clings like a second skin, whispering in the dark, reminding me that some mistakes don't get redemption, only consequences. And now the echo of my daughter's voice, soft, truthful, cutting, will forever be the one that told me what I truly deserved, and it will haunt me every day for the rest of my life.